Evidently he made another kill. We're going to go and visit that site, and we're going to see what we can do there. And I believe that the Matimbas and that Styx female have moved further south, but we're going to head on down that way anyway and see if we can find anything about what's going on with those lion. Other than that, we're going to see what this rain has brought. It's a little bit early to see whether there are any flowers out, but it is surely going to show us some things that has happened with the rain. One of the most important things about the rain is that it changes the ground. It changes our interpretation of what is around us, because for the most part, every day that we go out that there isn't rain, there are new tracks on top of old tracks. There is new news, as it were, and for now it's almost as though that slate has been wiped clean. It's almost as if I could think of an analogy, it's almost as if you have a chalkboard and you have chalk that fades over time, and every day you write something new on the board, but you never wipe it off completely, and every day you write on top of the old writing from the day before or from the hours before, and the chalk has a tendency to fade over time. If you can imagine that the chalk gradually falls off of the chalkboard. And that's pretty much what happens out here on the roads and on the game paths that we pass. You'll find that as the wind blows, and especially now with the dry leaves that blow across the road, it weathers the tracks, it smooths the tracks out, that only the new tracks are very, very fresh and very, very distinct. And sometimes it gets very, very hard to tell whether a track is 6 hours old or 4 hours old, and you've got to know how hard the wind was blowing or how many leaves are blowing across the road, whether it was aging the track or not. For now, though, we've had a considerable rain. It hasn't been just a light shower that merely dampens the current tracks. We've had a considerable rain that there are no tracks from before the rain whatsoever. So everything is new, and everything that we're going to see is going to be very, very distinct. The ground has, of course, become a lot more compact, so we're not going to be seeing those lovely little tracks, leopard tracks that we see in the dust. We're going to be very lucky to find maybe a hyena or a leopard track that's been where the animal has put its foot in soft mud. But on the normal sand, it's going to be very hard to read. We've got a rather flat light with this overcast conditions, so hopefully we're going to see some new ones. Of course, the hoofed animals are the ones that we're going to see very clearly, and I hope that maybe during the afternoon, because we don't really need light for these kind of tracks, the ones that are in wet sand, hopefully we can start looking at some of the different tracks. For now, however, just before we start to drive, we have one slight technical problem that I just have to apologize for. We need to return to go and get a particular tool that, funny enough, we've never needed on drive before, and we need to get that to adjust the camera. The camera is a little bit loose, and if we carry on right now, you're going to see a very bad wobble in the camera. So we're just going to go back to camp very quickly. It's going to take 2 seconds. And okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. Call it 2 minutes, and we'll be out immediately. So we'll see you shortly. 100 or a 4-run race. I guess I'm hoping it was close enough, quite as fast as the pit stops that we get today, but that was a quick one. Camera's steady, I'm steady, Brian's ready, and we're off. It's the end of the week. I'm sure a lot of you are really happy about that. We're approaching the weekend. Well, you are, we are not. Every day out here for us is a fun day, and well, Mondays can happen on any day of the week. It doesn't necessarily have to be a real Monday, so there are times that we have a Monday that can happen on a Sunday. You know what I mean, you know, Mondays being that dreadful day. Now, we're out on our drive. Welcome to our safari this afternoon. And I do look forward to hearing from all of you out there, whether you're going to send us a tweet on Twitter, #SafariLive is where you send it, or whether you send an email. questions@wildearth.tv is the email address. Be nice to hear from you, but please just let us know where you're from. It's wonderful to hear not only from all of our viewers, but it's wonderful to hear where it is in the world that you live. And kind of gives me an impression of where I'm talking to, not only who I'm talking to, but where I'm talking to. I haven't traveled very much. but I do have some knowledge of some of the other countries that we have viewers from, and it's lovely to get involved in conversation with you and dialogue over the difference in species or the similarities between environmental issues, all of those sorts of things. It'd be great to hear from you. It's cold this afternoon. Well, not cold, it's cool. The rain has dropped the temperature considerably because there's a wind chill factor. It's not a very strong wind, it's just a slight breeze, but it is a little bit chilly. And as you can see, I'm quite well dressed. In fact, for the first time this year, since last year winter, I've actually got long trousers on. And that's mostly because it's a little bit chilly and I want to keep warm this afternoon. Temperature, I would say, is probably around 15 degrees Celsius. The overcast sky that we have isn't threatening at all. It's what we call a very, very high ceiling. I'd say it's probably about 5,000-6,000 feet, maybe even higher. So there's no rain underneath it. We don't get rain. This kind of cloud doesn't produce rain from such a high ceiling, what we call a ceiling. And there are a few lower clouds that are coming in from the south, and it's maybe when the day wears off that we'll get some lower cloud coming in that might bring some moisture. For now though, we're safe. Interestingly, I've got a small group of impala here that I want to talk about because it is exactly that. There's a ram on my left, an impala ram on my left, just beyond a little bush with some yellow flowers known as a senna. And there in your bottom left is the senna, my flower for the ladies. And he's eyeing out this little group of females and lambs, ewes and lambs, which might be his. And here he comes, straight towards them, maybe because he feels that he needs... This is one of the first instances of impala rutting that we're going to experience right now. Watch. Are you going to do your noise, Mr. Marla? There's a young ram. Where I can see, there's one young ram, and I think he's gonna make beeline for that. Maybe not. But that young ram is going to probably be pushed out for this rutting season. Two young rams, actually. They might be a little bit too young. There we go. Ooh. The impala rut has officially begun. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Somehow he singled out that one female. And I'm sure she's going to do a big loop and probably come back somewhere around behind us or something. Now, what's very interesting about this is that this is a splinter group from a big herd of impala that normally live here. And I'm not too sure if you're aware that one of our leopards, one of our resident leopards, a young male by the name of Konuma, killed a female impala. He's only just finished eating a steenbok. In fact, he only finished eating it, I think, yesterday morning, if I'm not mistaken. And he's already killed another one. Well, not another steenbok, another antelope. It's an adult female impala. He's got it hanging in a marula tree. We're going to go and visit that shortly. We have visited it during the day to see if he's there. Brent and Steph were out in the rain this morning trying to find him, looking under every bush. I believe he was seen at some point heading down towards Gowrie Dam, Djuma Waterhole, and I'd be really keen to hear from any of your viewers who've been on the Djuma Waterhole cam whether he did pitch up and he was drinking down there. So the two impala that we're looking at now are actually two young rams of different ages. We've got a youngster in the front of us who's got his head down. It's just his little horn buds showing. He's only a few months old, and that's an older brother from the previous year. That's about it's just under a year, a yearling, or just over a year. Hearing a bit of noise from the lodge. It could actually no. He's not a yearling. He's probably one of the first lambs of the season, and the other ram is one of the last little rams of the season. And they're the only ones that are going to be allowed with the females during this rut. And if we look at November, so he's about a 6-month-old ram, this little boy that we can see in the middle. And then the new one is only maybe 2 months old, 3 months old at the most. He's this little one that Brian is showing you now. He's one of the later lambs. And because they're not mature enough, they haven't even been through puberty, they will be, no doubt, allowed to stay during the Impala rut. We're going to go and have a look, see where this male has chased his female. Interestingly, the other reason that they might be split, I was thinking that maybe they split off from the main herd because that leopard might have made a play for them. There are a couple of scenarios that we could think of here. Either Kunuma, our young male leopard, made a kill during the night and in his attempt, or in his, actually it wasn't even an attempt, it was in his successful hunt, he split the herd up. But I'm starting to see, especially now watching this young male, or rather this big male Impala, watching his behavior, I'm starting to think that he is now starting to collect a harem, and looks like he might have lost one of his girls. Because normally he can get in, he can, like a sheepdog herds sheep, the Impala ram herds his females and he keeps them together. If one starts straying from the group during the rut, he gets so upset, and then of course he chases her back again. But of course, if she's faster than him, well, she can run to another herd and join up with another herd, because of course the herd that they call together with throughout the summer, when there isn't the rut, when these Impala are all cohabiting, they form alliances amongst the females, and they obviously blood relations there that they like to keep, and the males don't keep that into account. But they came tearing down here at a rate, and it seems she was a little bit fitter than him. I can see him, both of them are down here. Here they are. The kill that Kunuma is on is just off to our left, just behind us to the left. And, well, interesting, there is a bachelor herd of Impala here now, where he has chased this female. So the other scenario I was thinking of was that maybe there was a similar circumstance happening yesterday, that there was an Impala ram chasing a female, and they must happen to chance by Kunuma wherever he might have been lying up, and he just saw this opportunity to jump up and catch that female as she was being chased by a ram. Because now we've got a situation where we've got 3 rams, and this female, this lone female that's been chased from the other herd, has been chased down here where there's, and they're not really a bachelor herd anymore, they're going to be in competition, and I think that's going to be about the best. Maybe a bit forward. Got one, let's get beyond this dead knobthorn. I've got a very interesting question from Colin in Johannesburg, here in South Africa. It's wonderful actually to get people from South Africa on our drives, because we don't have the luxury of great bandwidth that you have in other countries. So it's wonderful to have you on board, Colin. Why do impala wag their tails? Well, Colin, it's a fairly complicated answer, but I guess the basic thing, it's called flag signaling, and it's non-verbal communication between individuals. And it's something that we can look at. It's something that you can remind us of, and if you're watching again, no matter what species of herbivore we're watching, you're going to see that they do wag their tails, and that their tails, as is this impala that is now defecating, see, that is a signal to others that that is what he's doing. They can be far away feeding in the bush, but that little broad splash of white, it's not basically it's a posture thing. So the posture is that it's still a passive gesture. There's nothing to be alarmed about. The constant wagging of the tail, you can see when the tail is still, you don't see the white, but as soon as they start flicking that tail, you can see there's a little bit of white that shows, and it's the amount of white that they show that gives off different messages, and that's why we call it flag signaling. It's almost like the flag, the Morse code flag signaling. What do they call it? We learnt it in Boy Scouts as a kid, the alphabet with two flags. Semaphore. Yes, one of those things. Semaphore. Not summer, yes. Oh, it's probably got to switch those two around.
Okay, what's the problem there?
Microphone, evidently there's a microphone thing, and normally it's to swap those around. And
is it okay?
I think. So I'm hoping that maybe that makes a difference. Final control. I'm wondering if that wasn't the camera that they were using, that Scott and Steph were using up in Walk. Seems we have a little bit of a sound issue, which is really, I hope I've been talking loud enough, and I hope you've all been hearing what I've been saying, but there does evidently appear to be a little bit of a sound issue, and we are trying to address it. It's probably linked to the little bit of a technical thing that we had at the start of drive. Yeah, while things are pretty quiet here, the three rams seem to be doing their own thing. I think that I didn't see because we've been looking at microphones, but I think that ewe has returned to her herd, and we need to go and have a look to see if we can find Kanuma. The cloud is lifting a little bit in the west. We're getting some beautiful light coming out. Not quite full sunshine, but bright enough that it's changing the whole mood of the day. I'm just hoping if any of you can hear any difference in the sound, please keep us informed, because of course we pick up things on our equipment, but of course you, the viewer, all of you out there, if there's been if things are back to normal, or if there are still problems, please send Tara a message back in final control, and then we'll try and deal with it, try and fix it as best as we can. I see those impala. We should have stayed there, because I think they're changing their whole posture, and their tails are not flicking anymore, and that ties in with this question about tail flicking. It's not all about chasing flies, because then they'd have long enough tails to chase flies all over their body. It's got nothing really to do with that. It's got a lot to do with communication between individuals, and whether it's a signal to carry on feeding and not be concerned with what's going on, or whether it's a signal to say, oh, there's danger and you need to take care of things. So I might have been wrong, Brian, but I'm not sure how. How's it reading on your camera?
Yeah, fine, yeah.
Sound-wise? Okay. Final control. I'm not seeing this little boy leopard. But what I can show you is what he has done so far. Now we are right on the edge of the camp of Juma. It shows that these things take place no matter where the camp, rather no matter where they are, and that our presence doesn't really influence animals very much. But we're very close to final control. Final control is less than 30 yards away. In fact, right through the bush we can see the white of the satellite dish, and here in the tree on our left are the remains of a female impala, and I believe it was Kanyuma that did this. But he's been out all day, and I'm not surprised. He's a big fat stuffed cat. He's had an entire steenbok up until yesterday, and then while he was still trying to digest the steenbok, he managed to snag himself a big female impala, and he's eaten a considerable amount of it. He's eaten, by the looks of things, I would like to get a look at the remains on the other side of the tree. Look, I know this is gory for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like the blood and gore, but we are in Africa. This is the very point of what we do. So I'm going to talk about it briefly, but I won't go into too much detail. But he's eaten a considerable amount of it, and it shows that he's eaten a lot of the high protein stuff, the stuff that he is going to give him the greatest benefit. And then in time he'll chew on the smaller bits, as it were, if he comes back to it. It's most likely he'll come back to it, even if it's only tomorrow. He's definitely got a full tummy, and he needs to sleep that off for a considerable amount of time. For now, his kill is safe in a tree. There's not much that is going to get it. If a lion came right now, a lion would easily take it out of the tree, because this tree is so easy to climb, even for a cheetah, which is not a climber. Cheetah's a running cat, but a cheetah could take a good run up on the trunk of this marula tree. In fact, I can move positions and I can show you from a different angle. The marula grew at a slope. There's a big hole on the side that we'll see better if I move slightly, and you'll see that it's kind of leaning over, because it looks like the main trunk might have died, and over time one of the branches became the new trunk. So even a tree at this angle is good enough for a lion or a cheetah to climb. You can see this big hole over here that is where maybe the original trunk was. There's also a very big, you can see it's about that big, that was a very, very large branch that used to grow out that way, that broke off, and a lot of insects have gotten in there. A lot of the borers, a lot of the big insects that take sometimes 15, 20, 30 years to reach maturity, their larvae have been boring in some of that heartwood of the marula tree, weakening its structure. Probably why that branch on the right broke off originally. But we're not going to harp on this carcass for too long. We've had a look at it. We're going to come back to it, so we're going to do a few loops. What we'll do is we'll drive out for an hour or so, and we'll come back again in about an hour and have a look and see if he might come back. And in the interim, we're also going to be looking for him. We'll go down to Gowrie Dam. I'd like to hear from any of the viewers that might have been watching the camera this afternoon to see if any of them saw Kanyuma the young leopard coming down to the dam. It's possible that he might have gotten thirsty after eating so much salt content of blood. Right? I suppose, yeah, the blood is rather salty, and although a lot of animals can obtain all their moisture from the blood that they eat, predators still need to drink water. So we'll make our way down to the dam and have a look. This is Vuyatela, right on our left. It shows how close it is to the lodge. So if there were guests here at the lodge, the blue, oops, I don't know how to do this like Peter does, but there's the blue of the swimming pool. As we go past, maybe Brian can show you. So it would be very exciting for any of the guests at the lodge to be here. Of course, it would be discouraged for them to walk close by where this kill is, but it would just be that the knowledge that a leopard is on a kill so close to the camp must be quite fantastic. This is Vuyatela Lodge here at Djuma Game Reserve. We also traverse over Arathusa Safari Lodge, and there's a lovely dam at Arathusa. We will be visiting at some point, and we can show you how that looks. A different area. Leslie's in Niagara, Canada, I guess. I'm not mistaken. Hi, Leslie. Oh, New York side of Niagara. Okay. Leslie wants to know the gestation period of a leopard. It's about 100 days. So just over 3 months for leopard. Most of the big cats are around that period, that length of time. That was a blacksmith lapwing that flew away from us, by the way. And while I was talking, you could hear that sound. That sounds like a blacksmith hitting an horseshoe on the anvil. Tink, 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 tink. And that blacksmith was doing that because we drove past it. Driving very slowly because I'm expecting to see a leopard here somewhere, and I'm also surprised that these impala are still quite relaxed. So I think what I'd like to do is go down towards Twin Dams. Now I know that the lion that we're mating, which are the Matimba males, and that one Styx female, and I've got something else to add to that, thanks to Sil in Canada. The lion that we're mating evidently moved to the south. Now they were very close to our boundary. When we found them the other day, they were right on our southern boundary, and it was only a matter of time that took them back south because the lioness herself is the lioness of the Styx Pride, and the two lionesses that we see of the Styx Pride they're about the same age. I think quite often people sort of refer to one as older than the other. I've heard that and I've always thought that, but I was corrected just recently, and thanks to Sil, who is quite familiar with all the lion here in the Sabi Sands. Evidently they're about 4 years old, the two lionesses. And the last time we saw them mating, or one of them mating with the Matimbas, well, this Matimba, actually it'd be interesting. So I didn't really get that. Was she mating with this male, or was she mating with Ginger back in January? Look at this road. It's got deep ruts already from the mud and mud puddles, and the dove drinking. So yeah, distraction is the name of the game. Dove's got a lot of tail feathers, or undertail feathers that are hanging loose. So it would appear that it's the same female that was mating in January that has been mating with this male now. I'm interested to know if I should know because I saw them, but I can't remember. So I need refreshing. I need an update from one of you out there. It's the same male that was mating with this female, because now I know that I think it's the same female that was mating in January that was mating now, which means she didn't conceive in January, and so there's going to be this big question mark if she's going to be mating now, because we haven't really got that on camera yet. We have seen the sort of beginnings of what was the male getting very, very interested, and that's mostly based on his olfactory receptive organs. Is Jacobson's organ at the back of the throat that picks up the female estrus pheromones, the scent of the female in estrus, and that prompts him to behave like the sick puppy dog that he was behaving like. And every time he approached her, she rejected him. I mean, it was literally a cold shoulder moment. You could see how she sat there and she turned her head and she didn't want him to come near her. She growled at him. But by the same token, we watched how he kind of reacted to his brother when his brother didn't know where they were, and he popped his head up over the damn wall, and suddenly they were a lot closer than he thought they were, and his brother with the female got quite aggressive. This is for living in Canada. The sound of tires going through mud. Unique experience for this time of the year. After such dry conditions, now we've got mud puddles to drive through to splash. I'm like a little boy. I'm going to splash through every puddle this afternoon. But yes, we're going to look for some of the things that might come out after the rain. If you were with us this morning, I was talking about millipedes, and I was talking about giant African land snails. Seemed we might have just lost signal there for a minute. I need to explain something about what we have here on the vehicle. We basically got a broadcast vehicle that news station, I suppose it's the equivalent of TV stations use, but they have big closed bands that are not exposed to the elements or the elephants. I was going to say elephants first. I think that explains it all. So they weren't exposed to the elephants. Our antenna that we have at the back of the vehicle has to be perfectly straight. And sometimes if I go over a bump a little bit too much and then move the antenna, it can lose signal very quickly. And I'm sure you've noticed, and Scott and Brent and Steph have mentioned it to you when we've been going out. We go through a dip. Sometimes going through the dip, it's not so much that we go through a dip, but what it is that when we're going downhill, the antenna is at a little bit more of an angle, and that kind of does it. Because it's all got to do with microwaves and right angles and stuff that aren't elephants that I don't know anything about.
But the elephants play a part.
The elephants play a part, definitely. When you look at the side of Wendy. Two big holes in the side of our vehicle. Welcome to Djuma, welcome to South Africa, welcome to part of the Greater Kruger National Park known as Djuma Game Reserve in the Swabi Sands. Oh, very good question coming from Chris in Adelaide. Hi Chris. I'm going to have to take a guess. Chris wants to know how much rain we had last night. And I'm going to have to take a guess. In fact, this is a good example where it's perfect timing, Chris, for this question. Because if we look at this drainage line, and this is going to be one of the first key indicators of the amount of rain. And I might have to invoke the depends clause, but if we have a lot of rain, then there's so much runoff. If there's so much rain that it can't soak into the ground quick enough, there's a lot of runoff, and this is what creates these drainage lines, is that little variations in the topography run into bigger and bigger streams, and eventually they run into a little drainage line like this, and this runs into the Mulwati River, and there are hundreds of these running into the Mulwati River, that eventually, after time, all of that water accumulates over time. Now, we sat here sometime earlier this year with water running underneath us, and I know that there are some screen caps and there are some photos of this very drainage line flowing, and it would be great to compare the two right now. Maybe I should just take a quick photograph, because I might have taken a photograph of it at the time, and if If nobody else can find it, then maybe I can. And it'll give you an idea. Somehow we'll put it on the WildEarth site and we'll post it. But an indication that it wasn't really that much rain, in that there is no sign of any surface water running down this drainage line right now. And that one thing tells me that it was probably not more than about 50 millimeters, maybe 2 inches of rain. Okay, yeah, that's better. Just in case I've got this photograph somewhere, I'm going to see if I can just replicate it and put the two together, see the difference. The other thing is that when this rain started last night, it started with a bang. There was the most incredible light show, and I hope there were some of you that might have caught it in either Arathusa Camp, because the rain, it all came from there actually. It was thundering, it was pelting down over Arathusa before it came to Djuma, because it seemed to come in from the west, which in itself is rather unusual, although the whole storm came up the escarpment from the south. But it was coming up in the west at sunset. We had the most beautiful sunset, and then all of a sudden this whole thing swung to the northwest, or rather the northeast, came in from the west and the southwest, and pelted down. The initial rain was so much rain that there was runoff. We had streams running into camp, that some of the guys were getting worried that the water was actually going to accumulate and run into their rooms on the lower side of our courtyard. Fortunately, it started abating just before it reached that point, and then from then on it was just a steady drizzle for most of the night. So the very good thing is that that intensity of rain wasn't consistent enough or persistent enough to get these drainage lines flowing, and we're going to go through. In fact, we'll go into the Mulwati. We'll see where some of the water has flowed down into the Mulwati. We're going to do that right now, in fact, and then head south. That'll be a very good idea to see how much the rain has washed the sand clean. But the rest of the rain that has fallen, the bush has been so dry that it's like a sponge. It has just absorbed every single drop of it that has fell for the last 18 hours, I would imagine. Kristen. Interesting question. Wow. Kristen's in Denmark. Hello there. Wait, we got to splash through water first, splash through a puddle. Wasn't so much of a wee. Now, Kristen, forgive me. Just bear with me for 1 minute, because, well, we are where we are, and we're going to check. This is a little pan of water that is normally full, still at this time of the year, but because we've had a very bad rainfall season, I want to see if there was enough rain to even create a little puddle, because up until now, this is, yes, it has. Look at that. So we're likely to find buffalo again here in the mud. This has been very, very dry. This is a little pan known as Chella pan. Kristen was asking if we have dik-dik in the area, and I promise I'm going to get back to that question, because I want to give it some time, and it's just a matter of looking at this right now. A little bit of rain, because of the clay layer that exists here, it's managed to catch the water that has fallen, and it is the very reason why. This is a natural pan. This is not man-made. This is made by buffalo and elephants and rhino and all sorts of animals that have wallowed here over centuries maybe, and every time they come and wallow, they take away the mud. You can look at that mud that is accumulated on the trunk from animals rubbing themselves after they wallow, and every time it does fill up with water and animals do come in and take the mud away, it gets a little bit deeper, a little bit bigger. But I was asked this morning that whether we use this clay, with this lovely rich matter, that the sediment of these little pans, whether we use that as fertilizer or as well, yeah, I guess as fertilizer. And one of the reasons why you can't interfere with it is because it is a process that is vital to maintaining a little aquatic ecosystem. It is a clay base that needs to be there, and if you take it away you can actually damage that clay base and it might never hold water again, in which case it just becomes a dust bowl, and maybe eventually something might grow out of it. But it's vital to leave it there for other reasons, and that is because there is an incredible amount of life that lives in these little temporary pans over the season, over the summer season, the wet season. We don't get them here, but there is a species of fish. We get the other things that we get. There are frogs, many different types of aquatic insects, a couple of different types of aquatic spiders, aquatic crustaceans. There's a little thing called a fairy shrimp, which is a very, very interesting little creature. Mostly interesting because no males exist, and it's a kind of creature that reproduces through what we call virgin birth or parthenogenesis, parthenogenetics. All sorts of creatures that exist, and things that will come back again, and eggs that might stay dormant over the dry season. The chela pan, known as frog pan, chela means frog in Shangaan, the local language, and we have many times, well, a few times in the past. I have done it once, but I think we've done it before I did it. But we spent a night here. We brought the jigger out and we parked it next to the pan in the middle of the summer amongst the cacophony of sound of so many different species of frogs, and we tried to identify a few of them. I put on some latex gloves and we tried to do a sort of frogging expedition. It's very difficult to do because they're very, very sensitive creatures, and especially now in this day and age, frogs are getting a fungus that is killing them off worldwide. It's a fungus known as chytramidia, and it's really not good to handle frogs with our naked hands because of the oils or the bacteria or the fungi or the kind of oils even that we have on our hands. Now, frogs absorb a lot through their skin. Frogs that get thirsty now, or the frogs that have been thirsty, tonight is going to be a night that we're going to probably see, and unfortunately we won't be able to see them, or we might just before the end of drive, toads and tree frogs that are going to be coming out, and it's their last, probably one of their last chances to rehydrate before the dry season. And the only way for them to rehydrate is to sit, to squat in the water, and they absorb water through the skin on their back legs and to their lower back, because they can't really drink water. It's going to be interesting to see what life might exist after tonight, or rather what might come out. Now, an interesting factor is that this pan has been dried, and there are obviously eggs and things that remain dormant throughout the dry season. And if any of them were to hatch right now, it would be quite detrimental to the species, because quite clearly if we get 1 or 2 hot sunny days, this water is going to be gone, and that's far too quick for any of these creatures to complete their life cycle. So there's a very interesting thing that happens, is that the eggs themselves are triggered by hydrostatic pressure. I think it's called hydrostatic. Let's put it this way. When the water is deep enough, the pressure of the water is strong enough that the eggs hatch, and somehow nature has made it that only at that certain pressure, when it is deep enough, that they will hatch, to ensure that the water is going to stay there long enough for their life cycle to occur. Because, well, if the water dries up and they die before they become adults, they don't get to breed, so the species doesn't really exist for very long, does it? Some much interesting stuff. Did I hear it? Thought I heard something.
I also did.
Thought I heard an elephant. Let's take a quick look. There's a goa bird coming to drink. Go ahead. You might have heard us, one of us, all of us, any of us presenters talking about high felt and low felt and escarpment, and Gail is asking, hi Gail, Gail is asking if I can explain the terms low felt, high felt, escarpment. Quite easily, Gail. We have a mountain range to the west of us at this stage of its geographical distribution. This mountain range is a north-south mountain range called the Drakensberg, which means Dragon's Mountain, because looked at in its entirety, it's got the undulation. It is also one of It is also one of the longest mountain ranges, and that is what we call the escarpment, because what lies beyond the Drakensberg is ground that is about anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 feet high, as opposed to down here where we are. We call the low felt on the lower side of the escarpment, the eastern side of the escarpment. And this is called the low felt because it is much lower in altitude, and it's really flat, relatively flat. We're only at about 1,000 feet here, relatively flat all the way to the east where Mozambique is, and from the base of the mountain, which is the base of the escarpment, you suddenly get this huge altitude variance where it gets up west from us is considered high felt, and it has obviously different topography, different geology is considered high felt, and it has obviously completely different topography, different geology, different climate, different conditions, different vegetation, different periods. Now, I'm taking a look at back in the riverbed. Signal might be an issue because we're deep in the riverbed. Also that copy it, I'll exit. Well, let's get out of here. Skedaddle. You mean the rain hasn't done anything? Stand by, please. Please stand by. So just had to get back out of the riverbed there. It seems that we are having a bit of a signal now. There's one thing about signal that is different on a wet day as a dry day is because everything that is wet is absorbing some of it, as far as I'm aware. It is a microwave signal. So things, when we do get a bad signal area, sometimes gets a bit worse when things are wet. I thought I heard something through the bushes here. There were some tracks of a buffalo back there. It was most probably a buffalo. I was asked if where we're going next. I have to be honest, I don't know. We don't have a plan. There's no such thing as a plan when we're driving, unless it comes to going back to see where the leopard is. But the beauty about driving around is spontaneity, and if we have a plan, well, we can't plan anything because we don't know where anything is. The beauty about what we do here in the middle of the African bushveld is we can get to a junction and a bird could fly to the right and we could then take a right turn just because the bird was flying that way. Not seeing much in the way of tracks at the moment, so I haven't got any tracks to follow. The original idea is to maybe just keep heading south because we're on Twin Dams Road. We want to look at how much of this surface rain, how much of this runoff has occurred, and how much water was surface runoff, how much is soaked in. I think most of it is soaked in. The idea is also I'd like to find a road that hasn't been driven. This is clearly a road that's been driven. There are two sets of vehicle tracks here, and it'd be nice to find roads that are pretty clear of other vehicle tracks. Mostly so that I can find new stuff. But we're going to try and visit the riverbed again. I wanted to try and show you whether there was any water flowing into the Mulwati River at all. Now these are another couple of pans. There's a big Nyala bull, by the way. A couple of pans here too that have filled up with a bit of water. We often find these mud wallows tend to retain quite a bit, and we're no doubt going to see buffalo in these pans in the next couple of days. Quite a shy Nyala bull. I'm feeling a lot more secure now that he's very, very close to that very dense Tambuti thicket. Go down into the riverbed. Hopefully signal will be good in this section. One of the indicators that I've noticed here at Djuma, we're at a confluence of several roads and river and drainage lines. There's the Nyala bull, by the way. Good afternoon, Squire. There are two major drainage lines that converge where we are, as well as several roads, and when we do have a very heavy rain with a lot of runoff, this is where we see it. This is the most notable place that we see it. Now there's nothing on the sand here at all, but just in front of me, where that is Bateleur Road that's coming down. You can see the very dark patch in the sand. I'm going to get closer just after Brian zooms in now. But this shows that there was a little bit of water running down into the Mulwati River that has resulted in that little pool of mud, that little pool of very, very fine sediment that is collected. But that is about as far as it went. And getting back to an earlier question of how much rain I think fell, and until I find a rain gauge, until I get it from Mike, and I'm sure Mike who's involved in that here at WildEarth, until I get that from Mike, I can only guess that it must have been anywhere from maybe 30 to 50 millimeters, because not that much water. It seemed like a lot because it was constantly raining, but like I said, it's kind of like a sponge. sponge. The bush is just drinking it all up. And it was only the initial rain really that brought down enough water to create a puddle here for a little bit. You can now you can see how much clearer it is from above, how it would have run down the road and settled. There's even a little bit of erosion, like about an inch of erosion off of the road coming through as it ran down. Okay, let's get over to Twin Dams. Maybe hopefully it will be fine. Travel the riverbed. Let's try and do that. Try and drive down the sand. See, the Nyala was here, so now instead of driving the road, we're going to drive the sand. And we'll drive back along the road, because by the time we get to Twin Dams, which is south of us, if we follow this riverbed, by the time we get to Twin Dams, it's going to be time to go back towards Gowrie Dam and to see if we can catch up with that leopard that killed an impala, because we're going to have to go back there later. We're going to have to stop by there every now and then, because at some point he's going to get cold and hungry, and he's going to want to wake up and he's going to want to go back and feed, because oh my word, this Nyala has found another Nyala. And I can't see the other Nyala, but I can see by his behavior. Just there. It's just there on the left, I think. Yeah. Okay, let's get a nice, good view of this boy, because we so seldom get to see this behavior. The strut, the slow motion strut. The white dorsal crest is raised as high as he can. He's flaring his tail. I'm hoping we can't really get closer to them. We've got to get up onto this floodplain to be able to get closer to them. But they're going to strut their stuff. They arch their necks. They sort of point their horns forward, and they will circle each other like this. We might see the other one coming into view shortly, because it seems he's doing his dance, curving to the left a little bit. He might be curving to the left, because the other male is at the left, and the other male will be coming from the left, curving to his left, which will be to our right. It's a dance that these Nyala do in competition with each other, completely different to the way Impala settle their differences or settle the score, or any other antelope, or any other male vying for dominance. Nyala are unique. I'm going to see if I can climb up this embankment. I don't know if I can, but we can try. Yeah, well, of course we can. It's a Land Rover. You can see the other male now. He's not really taking up the challenge, to be honest. And bush is a little bit thick. Well, now he is. Now he's going the other way, not the way that I imagined he might. I can't go further. There's a bush willow being pushed over right in front of us. Unfortunately, also there's so much spike thorn and bush willow and guarri here, we can't really see, but he will be coming into view shortly. So just a little bit of patience, and we're just going to be a little bit quiet. This is kind of life in slow motion. So let's call it super slow motion.
Super duper slow.
This is super duper slow. This is about as slow as watching paint dry.
little bit more
little
exciting
bit,
though.
little bit more exciting. Infinitely more exciting. He's going to come into view now. But I want you to take note of the posture, how he's holding his head, and we've got the other male coming into view in the background. They're going to pass by each other just behind a very scraggly little bush willow. The mane, the dorsal crest, the tail, every hair on the body standing erect, even the lighter hair along the foreleg, or rather hind legs, the front part of the hind legs. He had that leg poised for over a minute. And the oxpecker is interfering. It's not really oxpecker, choose the wrong moment. The oxpeckers are the birds that are on the animal's back. They can be pesky little things. Oh, I need some water. So these are two Nyala bulls in their prime. Lynn wants to know. Hi Lynn. Lynn wants to know if they make any noise while they're doing this one. Hi Lynn. And Lynn's in Michigan, by the way. Hope Michigan's warming up a little bit. But no, as you can hear, Lynn, it's an entirely silent dance. No noise whatsoever. In fact, they're making every effort not even to make a noise with the hooves. When the front leg lifts up, almost the back leg goes into the spot where the front leg was. Oh, this is a silent dance. They don't want to draw any attention to themselves. Not like Impala that makes so much noise during the rut. The way Impala rams do it, no wonder so many of them get caught during the rut, because they get so involved in this dominance thing, and the snorting and the running, and they get so distracted with fighting each other that they become easy targets for lion, leopard and cheetah and wild dog and hyena. But these boys, they know how to do. They find a nice little patch of riverine forest and they do their dance. And this can go on for hours. I mean, this week we could be here till nightfall. But I think it's really, really incredible that we've been able to watch this, that they have continued to do their little dance with our presence, with the vehicle sitting here. And I think maybe now that they've moved out of sight, and I can't really move much closer to them, I think it's maybe time that we leave and we head down towards Twin Dams. And I haven't heard anything on the radio, and unfortunately it is a different channel property south of us where the Sticks and the Matimbas have gone. Don't have the same radio channels that we do, so I can only depend on maybe seeing somebody on the common boundary. But we're going to go down there, we're going to look for tracks, because maybe they've been walking around, maybe they've come back towards Twin Dams. Thank you, boys, and just don't get too nasty.
Will they ever butt heads?
Yes, they would. When this whole dance, a good question, Brian. This whole dance is about dominance, and it can mostly get to a point where the less dominant male is going to acquiesce, and he's going to eventually just, what he's likely to do is he's going to go and feed displacement activity, maybe horn a tree or something, because he can't take the pressure, and the other male might then go ahead and not challenge him anymore, and it might sort of dissolve just from this kind of a behavior. But if there are two males that really, really want to have a go at each other, because this dance is not going to settle it. Look what landed on my hand. Hello, grasshopper. Pretty little thing. They're even turning to say hello. Beautiful camouflage. Bye-bye, grasshopper. Nice to have known you. You break my heart. You left so soon.
The whirlwind romance.
Whirlwind. Whirlwind romance. I think Misikai is open at the moment. This, by the way, you'll hear me talking on it every now and then. This is our game drive radio. This is the radio that I have in connection, or I'm connected to all the other vehicles that are driving around on our channel, on the Juma channel. It's what we call the northern or the western, or rather eastern channel. And every now and then, in the middle of something, I might have to pick this up and talk to somebody that you can't see or hear. And that is because we have to share information. We have to be in contact with each other all the time to know what's going on, but also because we don't like to pressure animals, and it's important that only 2 vehicles or maybe 3 vehicles are with any animal at any one time, any of the major animals that we need to see, and so we need to be in touch so that we don't pressure the game drive channel. You'll hear that happening every now and then, by the way. An amazing question. Oh wow! I've got a question from a place called Hammanskraal, which is here in South Africa. A chap by the name of Sibusiso. Hi there, Sibusiso. Molo. Sawubona. Oh wait, I've just got to show you the red tambuti leaves. As good as flowers, ladies. Red tambuti leaves, as good as flowers. But a very interesting question. Sibusiso is a beekeeper by the sounds of things, and has got a beehive, and he's seen snakes coming out of his beehive. We're going to be seeing, sorry, beehive. We're going to be seeing, sorry Sibusiso, excuse me a second, and I've got another question to answer earlier too, that I forgot about. But this the lovely change in color of the tambuti leaves, I love it. Interestingly, the nyala don't eat tambuti as part of the euphorbia family, which all, that family of plants all have a very poisonous milky latex. And when the plant draws all its nutrients out of its leaves, they change color and they start falling, and I guess then the milk isn't as toxic as it is when it's on the tree. But you'll often find nyala eating the red leaves on the ground. And while we're thinking of flowers, there's one flower I can see up ahead. I've been dying to find a flower for the ladies out there. That is that little white one. If there's a flower, I'll find it. A little white flower known as a barlaria. Sibusiso, I've never heard of snakes in beehives. I don't know of any relationship that snakes have with bees. Of course, I'm not the expert. I have, however, I've kept bees before. And that was down in the Cape, though. Excuse me, just got to talk on the radio. Mark, yeah, go ahead. Copy, thanks. Barlaria, B-A-R-L-E-R-I-A, Barlaria. So in the time that I was keeping bees and making honey, I didn't find that at all. And I would be interested to know, are you sure the beehive is still active? And I know for me it's probably probably a stupid question, but there was one time that one of my hives, the whole hive died, and I didn't know about it because just the timing that I was there to check. A while later that I realized that the whole hive, something had happened to the hive, as has probably happened in many countries all over the world. A little bit more mud and things developing here, and this is Mumba Road crossing. A lot of runoff here. Interesting, Sibusiso, if you've heard of this new method of beekeeping, amazing. Somebody posted on my Facebook page. It's fantastic, and I wish there's this Australian guy, father and son beekeeper duo, that have developed this beehive that you don't have to crack open the hive anymore. You don't have to don't have to do any of the damage to the hive that has happened up until now. In terms of extracting honey, the whole process of taking the leaves out and spinning them in the barrel and extracting the honey that way, disturbing bees, maybe squashing some of them, all of that. There is this new method of beekeeping that is revolutionary. And what it is that they have these pre-designed honeycombs in two parts that the bees actually then complete. And there's this little lever that when it's time to crack the hive, you don't even have to open it. You do turn the lever and it just moves the two edges apart to let honey drip out, and you literally have honey on tap. It doesn't disturb the bees, they just carry on doing their thing, and well, it's quite amazing. I forget what it's called, but it's I wish we had it in South Africa. I know there's sort of crowdfunding need and what have you, but it's probably the most revolutionary, most amazing idea in beekeeping that has ever come out. Of course, our biggest problem here in South Africa and this part of the world and down in the Cape as well, in fact in many parts of rural Africa, are honey badgers, keeping the beehive away from honey badgers. One of the best things, or one thing that I found, I managed to build these tripods on stilts well, you could put a four-legged stand, anything, and as long as it's off the ground, it'll be fine. And as long as it's nothing that a honey badger can climb, thin legs, nothing that they can push over, as long as it's off in the ground. In fact, sometimes a 44-gallon drum works, to put a beehive on top of a 44-gallon drum to keep them off. The problem is, of course, that they are very strong little critters and they can push things over very easily. So you've got to make sure that they can't push it over. But yes, that is our main challenge, beekeeping in Africa. Up in East Africa, they don't even have the boxes and the supers and they don't have all of that. They just take a hollowed out piece of wood and they hang it from a tree and the bees come and do their own thing. And that's how they manage to keep bees in East Africa. Very interestingly though, beekeeping has become an alternative to keeping elephants away from crops, because elephants are so particular about bees. Elephants hate bees, and as a result, it's found that if you can manage a few beehives, several beehives around the crops that you're growing, you can keep elephants out of your crops. And of course, you have the added bonus that you've got this nectar that you can produce that is like liquid gold at the moment, because honey is becoming so expensive. It's unbelievable. I'm just going to stop here at this end of the dam, and I'm going to switch off and I'm going to listen. I just want to sit here in a little bit of silence for a minute. I'm going to switch off and listen, because if those cats are anywhere nearby and they are mating, please stand by, and they are mating, we want to be able to hear them, because every time they do mate there's likely to be roaring. So I just want to sit, listen quietly. Brian is going to see if he can find you the odd thing around the dam. There's a blacksmith lapwing to begin with. I just want to I think while we're sitting here, we can take a question or two. I know that Final Control did have a question for me as we were arriving, and I just wanted to sit and listen for a bit. You can hear a Franklin. You know, sitting and listening is very important, because while reading the tracks and the roads is part of our update, part of how we read what's going on in the world around us, it's very important for us to sit and listen sometimes, because we've got to use all of our senses. In fact, even sometimes we use our sense of smell. But what's also important is our sense of hearing. And when you are in tune with nature, and you recognize different sounds. You recognize either sound ceasing or sound starting, or the lack of sound or excessive sound. They can tell you all sorts of things, what animals are doing, or rather what might be happening around us. And sometimes it's just really nice to sit and listen. And we're going to move a little bit closer to the dam, or maybe we'll just go a little bit towards the other side of the dam, and we'll stop there and listen a little bit more. I do hear something alarming. So I think we had a question from Valerie. Valerie sent an email wanting to know the difference between insects and bugs. Why aren't all insects bugs? Oh, there's a random shoulder blade. I know where that's from. At least I think I do. Very old shoulder blade. Been chewed heavily by hyena and things over the years. But there's a buffalo kill here many years ago. The Majingilan Lion Coalition killed a buffalo here one day. We can see some of the other parts of the skeleton just on the other side of the dam wall. But I'm going to stop again. I'm going to talk to you again. Valerie wanting to know about insects. Why aren't all, and there's an eagle flying too. Why aren't all insects bugs, or what are bugs? Well, I know that in many parts of the world, anything with legs is called a bug. But in real terms, when we talk about nature, bugs are just one type of insect. See, now there's some francolin that are alarming, and I've heard some starlings alarming. That could be to do with this eagle that's flying around. What looks like a brown snake eagle. Gone. Yeah, looked like a brown snake eagle. So the alarming that we're seeing, or rather hearing, could have something to do with the snake eagle being there. So Valerie, they're about, I think, I don't know, I might be a little bit old-fashioned because I might not have up-to-date information, because there might be new discoveries that I don't know about. But I think there are about 32, if not 33, different orders of insects, and in the nomenclature, in the breakdown of creatures, it's like there are many different types of mammals. So I want to use the analogy. If we look at insects, insects are this one group of creatures. You get insects, birds, fish, reptiles, amphibians, mammals. Those are sort of major groups of animals. Now, in the animal kingdom, amongst the mammals, you will get, that's a turtle dove, by the way. In the mammals, you will get all different types of mammals. You'll get carnivores, insectivores, herbivores. And anyway, they're all divided up into different categories. Now, insects are also divided up into different categories. And bugs are but one category of insect. And there's a very specific physiology, a very specific makeup of what makes a bug, as opposed to all the other insects. Now, I know I get a little bit sticky about calling everything a bug, because there is only really one type of insect that is a bug, and all other insects are different. There are Other than bugs, there are ants. One category is ants, bees and wasps. They fall into one category because they're all related. Another category are the mantids, the praying mantises. Another category are the grasshoppers and the crickets. Another category of insects are termites. And another category are things called thrips, which are a pain for those of you who are trying to grow vegetables and do your own gardens. Another category of beetles. Another category of insects are bugs. Very specific shape, very specific type of animal, of insect. So it's more that there is a generic use of the word bug, in that many people all over the world just refer to anything as a bug. So technically it's not really correct, because there is only really one insect that is a bug, and it's just, I suppose, being specific or not. I hope that answers the question. I'm not going to tell you what this is, because it's cold and it's puffed up. It is a dove, I'll give you a hint, but because it's cold and it's puffed up, you can't really see any finer details, so it might be a little bit of a hard. It can only be one of two, and I'm going to ask somebody to send a tweet or an email to tell me which type of dove this is. Pretty little thing. One of the smallest doves we get here. One of, because there is a smaller dove that does occur.
It's quite different when it's cold. Eh?
It does.
Yeah.
I know I missed the question earlier. I was supposed to get back to it after Chelapan. I don't know if I addressed that one, and I'm going to rack my brain to think of it. Okay, we're at Twin Dams. This is where the lion were starting the mating ritual a couple of days ago. Hello James, Mr. Bear. Very nice to hear from you, James. I was waiting for somebody to see what was on my dashboard and to mention it. And I'm going to stop. We'll go past Twin Dams. It was actually very interesting. There's actually a droplet of venom coming out of its sting. James, very observant. Thank you for seeing that. Thanks for noticing. And I've been dying to find the right moment to talk about it. Sadly, the poor child has passed on, and not much I can do. I've tried artificial resuscitation with scorpions, but they don't. Oh, yeah, I've given it away. It's a scorpion. James, you're right. It is a scorpion on my dashboard. Why do I have a scorpion on my dashboard, one might ask? Well, because I want to show you, because I want to teach you, because I want to share with you the wonders of nature. And there's a hoopoo in the road. There's changing the subject. Upupa epops. Bye bye. Hoopoo. Thanks, Joanne. Joanne got it right. Joanne Evelyn and spotted wood dove. And I think we've got to do a birding day very soon. In fact, maybe tomorrow. Brent and I will take the bird list and we'll do a birding day. In the next day or two, we'll figure it out. Somehow we'll do it right. We are now as south as we can be, and I think these cats are maybe not too far south of us. And maybe. I know there are a lot of you that sent in answers on the emerald spotted dove. Thanks for that, everyone. Love the feedback. And we're going to stop and semi-listen. Well, Brian will probably listen for the lion. I'm going to tell you about this child on my dashboard who, sadly, I think got a little bit too much water in its burrow last night in the rain. I'm going to just turn slightly so that you can see. I'm still seeing a little bit of muscle twitching. But it's you can see there's a bit of a twitch in the tail. This is one of the tiny little flies that bug me so much. But there is actually a droplet of venom. I don't know where the best position to see it. There. Now you can see it. There's a droplet of venom on the tip of its tail. I think this is just the. I mean, it's been dead. I've had it since last night, last night, after the very heavy rain had fallen. And I'm going to tell you why they drown so easily. But I think the twitching that we're seeing is a sort of post-mortem stuff. But I want to show you also that it's crystallized actually. I guess it must have dried and crystallized a little bit of protein, that little bit of venom. I just wanted to show you that venom, which is protein, that cannot do anything. The scorpion cannot sting once it is dead. It's not like a bee, perhaps. But anyway, the most important thing I wanted to show you is the physiology of this wonderful creature. Now, in terms of maternal care, you cannot believe how fantastic these animals are. They carry the eggs until they hatch, and then when the eggs emerge, they'll carry their babies on their back for several molts, and they will actually feed their young. They will catch things and they'll break up pieces and they'll actually feed their young. This is a youngster of the yellow-legged burrowings, one of the burrowing scorpions, and what is most important and most noticeable about the scorpion is these very, very big crab-like pinchers that you can see. And when we look at insects and spiders and scorpions and any of what we call arthropods, arthropods mean segmented-legged or segmented, and the segmented beings of this planet. We live on a wonderful planet, by the way, and I wish more of us, humanity, would acknowledge it. But their skeleton is outside. They have very much strength in the tail, and so this particular scorpion the west, and that might just bring, when the sun is going down, it might just shine a little bit of color underneath. Just get several. Wow, question from Tennessee East State University, Tennessee East State U. Dan, nice to you. And a great question. What is the difference between a lesser and a greater animal? We get lesser and greater kudu. There's a starling. See, East State University. Well, there's an eagle now. Difference between greater and lesser is because larger than the other. One is, well, that's simple, I guess. The simplest answer I can give. Greater spotted and lesser spotted genet. Morley was consumer based on his being very close by with the Steenbok kill yesterday, and that he was the one that did this. And the way that this cat is eating is kind of a hungry cat. But this is definitely quarantine. And thanks to everybody else who has sent in answers as well, saying that it is quarantine. Great of you to respond to us like that, and this is what is so wonderful about everything that we do here, in that we have this wonderful interaction and sharing of information and knowledge. There are a number of things that we use to identify individuals, and of course it's very difficult for us to see the same marking every time we do see a leopard, because sometimes they don't look at us the same way, or because the angle is wrong. And for me personally, I look at the mainly because it's his left eye that I can see the most at the moment. But for each of us that do have these identifying features, we hone in on a particular part of a leopard, and it's only after spending a long time and many hours with these cats that we start noticing maybe there's a particular marking on the shoulder or on the rump, or a particular spot pattern on the chest, or maybe the bib pattern on the chest. There is there is every single spot and rosette on a leopard is different to every other. So it's a matter of where it is that you choose on a leopard's body. You find a very specific marking, and obviously it's got to be in a very easily accessible place. I mean, there's not somewhere along the flank, because see that. So obviously the face, because we get to see the face, it could be. Now you can see that line of very, very dark spots going down his throat, but we don't always get to see underneath his throat now. And if anything, one of the places we do get to see mostly is the throat and the spot pattern above or around the eye. For me, it's a particular marking that looks like the British pound symbol. His brother has a series of large dots. His brother could shape and color of an individual, but over time you also get to learn the character. Now, if that was Konuma when we were approaching, I'm pretty sure he would have looked up and snarled at us, because it's just kind of his character. It's what he does. He looks at us and he lifts that upper lip and sort of gives us a little bit of a growl. Not always. I've been with him many occasions where he hasn't, but he does do it quite often.
9 times out of 10 he'll snarl.
Yeah. And this youngster, well, he's quite relaxed, to see where he came from, but you can see how he's tucking in there. I mean, he's chewing the top of the rib cage. He's getting really stuck in. I think that this answers the question that we've only just recently had, that if Quarantine Male found it, would he? And well, yes, he has.
Now,
Yes.
if Konuma
Came
saw
along.
him now, would he chase him out the tree?
Well, no. My bet would be. My bet would be that if Konuma came, he would be kept out of the tree by Quarantine Male snarling it, because you see, Quarantine Male now has the upper hand, the upper branch, the upper arm. The advantage is that if his brother tried to climb the tree, obviously he's going to be head first, and Quarantine Male will be able to swipe at him from above. So he might climb up into the sort of first bend in the tree where that old trunk had broken off, or onto the first branch. There'll be a lot of snarling, a lot of growling. It would be fantastic if they were to be together here. He's certainly keeping a lookout. I'm still not sure if anybody saw the line of leopard at Gowrie Dam today. It'd be interesting to know if you could send Final Control a message with that. And I guess if we were to drive around a little bit more, we might be able to see his tracks where he might have come from. But he is every now and then looking out towards Gowrie Dam. Nigel wanted to know if Q, he's just dropping fur, he's licking fur off. Nigel wants to know if Quarantine Male was dominant when they were youngsters. I don't know. We've only recently come back here, Nigel, when they were already 2 years old. When we came back in November, they were turning 2. So we don't have any idea. Personally, I have no idea of how they were as youngsters growing up. For the prior 2 years of their life. I would have to find out from the other guides who've watched them over the last 2.5 years to see whether there was any sign of one dominating the other, dominating. one being more dominant. Bella Ray wants to know if there are any hyenas very close watching him. No, there won't be. If there were any hyenas, Bella Ray, you could be sure they would be standing directly under and be at the tree. But because it is the time of day that it is, I'm pretty certain that we might be seeing hyenas coming by anytime soon. It's about the time of day that they might start getting active. The hyena den from here is due south of here, and we've got mostly the prevailing wind or the breeze is coming up from the south, so the hyena are not going to smell this from the hyena den, but they'll certainly pick up the scent if they were anywhere north of here. Thanks, David. Thanks, Dave, in the UK. No sign of leopard at all down there. Down there at the dam. Thanks, David, Uzuzumi. And let's just ask Ephraim quickly. Ephraim, come in. It's the same Ingwe from this morning. Okay, copy. Ephraim is saying it's the same leopard that was here this morning, so perhaps we must have got our information wrong that it was Kunuma that had killed it. I mean, it was quite a stretch that it was Kunuma after killing the Steenbok. I mean, the Steenbok kill is maybe in a straight line 200, 250 yards from here, south of us. So rather unusual that both brothers have been so close in such a short space of time, but also quite typically when a leopard finishes a kill, unless it gets the opportunity to kill them very quickly afterwards through opportunity, they don't tend to stay in the same area for very long. But very interesting that both brothers have been here. No, it dropped a little bit now. If there was a hyena here, it would be scrambling for that tiny little scrap that fell. Hyena ears are so well tuned to the sound of the smallest morsel from a leopard's kill. Now, I might have said earlier that this tree is fairly easy to climb for the likes of hyena, for lion and even cheetah. Look, cheetah are not going to come here with a leopard, but I'm just saying if cheetah were to use the lookout, they're going to take a carcass. Not likely, but it's different for hyena. Hyena climb, period. So no matter how much a tree is leaning, or this tree, not leaning enough for a hyena to get anywhere other than putting its paws up a little bit. But even that's difficult for a hyena. Another question from Denmark, from Tessa, has heard. Tessa wants to know why it is that leopards will first eat the insides. Not always, Tessa, but generally, to some degree. I mean, normally when a leopard kills something, not normally, there's no normal. Different leopards, different things. Different days, different leopards, different things. Every day is different. And what a leopard does one day, it might not do again the next day. And a lot of it depends on the pressure that it has at a kill. But to some extent, leopard will sometimes disembowel their prey and bury the stomach contents, lightening the carcass to take it up a tree. But I can't say that I've seen. It looks like he's looking for a different place to store the carcass. He's looks like he's looking to move things a little bit. Looks like he's just, I don't know, we'll see. Sometimes, depends on how hungry they are. Yeah, I think he's going to move it. I think this is what he's been looking at. He's looking at a way to move the carcass a little bit in the tree. Take it by the neck maybe, or halfway. There we go. He wants to take it higher up. There's still quite a lot left. Both of the back legs. Oh, he's battling a little bit. You could see, I could see him calculating. I could see him looking up into the tree and calculating the odds, calculating his moves to try and get it. I think he wants to get it slightly higher than that, into that next fork perhaps. Can't imagine why, other than the fact that maybe because we're approaching late afternoon, we're approaching evening time when hyenas are going to be coming out, and maybe he just wants to make sure it's well out of reach of anything that is likely to come by. And I think he still wants to take it up a little bit more. That must have been a huge effort for him. Sometimes they will start eating at the rump, the softest meat on the hind quarters, much like cheetah will do. Sometimes they'll start at the rump because it's the easiest place to access the carcass. There isn't a norm. There's not a guarantee, but yes, they will sometimes eat the heart and the liver and the lungs, but sometimes they'll leave it behind, bury it before they take the carcass up a tree, lightening the load of the carcass so that they can get it up a tree. Looks like it's a little bit awkward. I'm going to try and change position for us as soon as he moves. Maybe it's not moved just yet. We'll see what I can see. He's aiming for this fork that he's looking at now. That fork just above him. Now the leopard has got a very, very thick and muscular tail that helps him balance when he's doing these acrobatics in a tree. So most likely, the chances of hyena and lion starting to move around now that it's getting dark are higher, and he's conscious of that. Probably one of the reasons why he left the kill for most of the day. I think for the entire day he left the kill, was hiding away in the bushes, and not much chance of other predators moving about despite the temperatures. And maybe he just wants to store it a little bit higher, out of sight, out of mind from... And now he's going to come down and do some, maybe with a bit of luck, do some cleaning. Maybe go and have a drink of water. Clancy wants to know if there'll be any parts that would be left over. Yes, Clancy, depending, it's not really an easy question to answer. With the steenbok that Kanuma ate, I don't think there was any part left over. I think he pretty much ate the whole thing. It depends almost entirely on the size of the prey, on the size of the animal that is killed. Obviously, things like the impala, there are parts of the impala, like the back of the skull, or the main parts of the skull, the ends of the long bones, the joints of the long bones, part of the femur, perhaps the pelvis, the shoulder blades, a lot of the carcass, a lot of the bone that is a little bit too dense for him to chew through. So in the larger prey items, the larger the animal, the less there is of the animal that a leopard can chew through and bite through, and often they will just leave an articulated backbone. Also the vertebra is another thing. And so there will be pieces that it cannot and won't bother with, that might eventually either be left hanging to desiccate and mummify in a tree, or drop down and be eaten by hyenas. Let's see if we can see him again, or at least get ready to follow him if he's going to go anywhere. Where can we put it? The chimneys of a termite colony just in front of me, and I can't go over them because I don't want to damage the termite colony. So maybe we'll try from this angle. Well, at the moment we're going to have to be content with him just cleaning and grooming himself at the base of the tree. So that station coming to the Ingwe, if you do a sort of a 90-degree left, you'll come up towards Yuri's house. You should see me. Ja, ek het jou gesien, Kobus. Kom net van jou linkerkant toe, bo na die lodge toe, en dan sal jy my sien. Nou 'n bietjie regs van jou af, net vorentoe. Hy is onder die boom, net na aan die boom op die grond. Jenny on Twitter wants to know if I've ever seen a leopard fall out of a tree. I've seen it come close to falling out of a tree. We had a wonderful shot of, I think it was Mishu and Induna. Impala. Miskien van die ander kant af. We had a leopard that was sort of falling asleep on a branch. Or was it thorny bush? And he sort of fell over and managed to correct himself just before he fell out of the tree.
I remember there was a very clumsy leopard with a kill in a tree.
That
Very,
young male, I think.
Yeah, trying to do
Yeah.
all sorts of things.
But no, personally, never. I've seen lion falling out of trees. There are other vehicles coming in. Now it's going to be important for me to make space for them. So, and it's very limited to. Yeah, I'm going to pull out. You can come in here where I am. Is that right? Neil, okay, I'm going to pull out. You come where I am. There's just a termite colony to my left. But if you come in where I am, you'll get a view of him. I'll pull out for you. Please stand by one. Have you got him? He's at the base of the tree, but you'll have to come. You'll have to come here where I am. I'm the storm here. Hello, Mary in Michigan. Very interesting. We've got Nyala bull following in a Nyala ewe coming right up here towards his tree. And this Nyala bull horning some branches. We're not going to go very far. A couple of Nyala coming up to this Ingwe sighting. Do they have different grooming? Mary wanting to know, do they have different grooming habits to lion? Yes, they do. Mostly because leopard tend to be solitary. What is the same as lion is the same for all cats. They groom the same. They lick and they clean and they lick their paws and wash their face. And there's something universal about the way cats clean themselves. So from that point of view, they're the same. But the thing that is different, Mary, is the fact that lion are social cats, and being social cats, part of that social bonding and part of the pride, cohesiveness depends on what we call allo grooming each other and helping each other to stay clean. This big Nyala bull is displaying. Trying to show off to this female Nyala, and they are meters away from him at the base of the tree. And if he's not too engrossed in his grooming, he might actually hear them. I just wanted to make space for the other vehicle. More Nyala coming up now from down towards Gowrie Dam, coming past the lodge. A young Nyala bull and another Nyala female just on top of my hat. The fence that you can see behind these Nyala are especially designed, very low fence, to keep animals out of the lodge grounds, because you can't have wild animals interacting with human guests that come in from overseas who don't know how to either behave or react to wildlife. So it's very important to keep the two separated. Nyala, on the other hand, can jump pretty well, so they do jump in and out of there, but it does keep things like hippo and elephant and buffalo and some of the dangerous game away from people who are visiting out on safari. This Nyala is coming closer. Now these Nyala are very accustomed to people because they live around the lodge. They are so accustomed to us that you can sometimes walk right past them within, say, 10 feet of them and they don't react. And so it's nothing for her to see us as no threat. But what she doesn't know is there's a leopard behind me. I'm going to have to just reverse a little bit. I don't want to interfere too much. I mean, he could become interested. We are between final control and the lodge. We're in a little patch of, little sort of avenue of bush. You can see some white things in the background maybe, which are vehicles and the lodge itself. We are a stone's throw from final control. In fact, I think if there was a window on that one wall of final control, they would probably be able to see us right now. Maybe 20 or 30 yards from final control. He's watching. He's very, very interested in her. Thanks, Neil. Good. Mark, go ahead. Okay, copied. Who's that? Sorry, my radio's crackling a bit. Yeah, firm. I'm just not recognizing the voice. Who's that? Alright, copy that. Thanks, Mike. He's just watching some Nyala at the moment. I'll let you know when there's space. There isn't really any need for him to hunt right now, but if that Nyala went anywhere closer to him and he had the opportunity to, he possibly would have, because he has the ability to store the carcass, to take it up a tree and feed on it later. There is a chance that he would go for it. There's another young male Nyala just running to catch up with that young female we just saw. You can see how he's watching them both. I wouldn't say intense concentration. The ears are telling me that he's mildly interested but not really focused. No.
South of it.
Are they calling? There has been lion mating down there at Twin Dams, but then they went over Gowrie Main onto the other side.
Okay, so they're on the other side.
The Sphinx. One of the landowners that's here with us telling me that there have been lion calling down south, so we might have been a little early when we stopped and trying to listen for those calls earlier on. Now they might be getting active again. Maybe a little too far for us to pick up. I think I'm just as confused as some of our viewers as to who actually killed the impala. There was talk of it being Kanuma's kill, but I confirmed that, as far as I know, the last person that was here with this kill this morning was Ephraim, who was here earlier, and I asked him on the radio if it's the same leopard as this morning. He says it's the same leopard that was here this morning, which means the quarantine was here this morning. Now, I can't be sure, so I'm not going to give you any definitive answer right now. But as far as I know, it's been his kill, and he was on it this morning, and he's come back to it this evening. I need to chat. Also, Brent might know more. I'm not too sure what Brent saw this morning, and I guess I need to really confirm whether it was, in fact, Kunuma that was here earlier. But from what I understand, it was him. Now here's another Nyala coming towards us with this big bull. It's the same two. I think she's possibly pretty much similar circumstances to what we were witnessing with the lion, possibly coming into estrus. Not quite ready. She's quite a young ewe. She's probably only about a 2-3 year old. And he is pestering her a bit, so she's walking around in circles. He's trying to get a sniff. We might see him doing the same kind of thing that the lion was doing, the phlegm and grimace, because he will do it too. At the moment it's just doing the taste test rather than anything else. He's been testing her readiness, or how close she is to being in estrus. There's another young male just behind this big male. I need to be worried too much about the young bull. Quarantine getting very, very interested. Now, unfortunately, although it's getting quite dark, we're going to try and keep light open on the camera as much as we can, but we're in circumstances that we cannot use any lights, and well, with the cloud that we have, it might start getting a little dark, but we can't influence any of the behavior here by putting any lights on.
Are you talking about?
Pardon?
Oh, sorry, now I was wondering if you're busy on your. Are you busy on your speech or?
Yeah, so I was.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
What do you think the reason is with the lack of general game at the moment?
The temperature.
Temperature.
It's been warm, and then the rain came, and then now they're just all hiding.
Just ducking.
They're just adjusting to such a sharp temperature drop. What do you think?
I just can't believe it. I mean, well, we arrived kind of late yesterday evening and went out last night. We heard about the Birmingham and Pride, but they were right, they were just too far away.
Yeah.
Basically, we just don't see a general game. We've seen, as we came through the gate, we saw one little herd, small herd of heads.
Yeah.
We haven't seen any.
No.
Nobody can talk about an overpopulation.
No, definitely not. But I think mostly it's temperature because of the rain last night and the cooler temperatures. I mean, it was hot yesterday. It's been hot and dry, and the sudden drop in temperature and change in weather always sends things into hiding. Sorry, I was just having a discussion with one of the landowners behind us, asking about my impression or my opinion on why it is there's not so much general game around at the moment. There's not really much about, and most certainly got a lot to do with temperature and the fact that it's getting quite cold, and the rain and dampness. Sandy wants to know, Virginia, I think Sandy wants to know if the flash of the cameras makes a difference. No, not at all. I think, Sandy, if you happen to watch our cameras last night just after drive, whether it was Arathusa or here at Juma, you would have seen a light show that was far worse than any number of flashes on a vehicle with the flashes of lightning. So I guess sometimes it irritates them, but they tend to ignore it. You see, our female is going to start walking straight towards him. Because she's got two Nyala bulls that are bugging her. Mike, come in. Mike, do you copy? Now, Mike, if you want to make your way into the sighting, there's space for you. And they're moving away now, the Nyala. It'll be very interesting to follow up on this in the morning to see what transpired. You can see how white stands out. Been very lucky to have had the rain stop for us to come out this evening, and even luckier that things have gone so smoothly coming out to see the kill and to see that he came back later on after having done a nice little drive and seeing some different things, coming back and spending the rest of the afternoon with him has been a bonus of note. And I hope that tomorrow morning Brent will probably be coming out in the morning, and we'll obviously be following up on that, and with a little bit of luck we can head down south and maybe get an idea of what might be happening with the Matimba male and that Styx female lioness as they continue their honeymoon, or non-honeymoon for that matter. But as you can see, it's starting to get quite dark now, and although you can put some light on me, we're not lighting up the cat and we're not lighting up the Nyala, which is very important. We don't want to give any advantage to either one of them. But it is getting time for us to say goodbye to you wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for sending in questions and for the interaction we've had this afternoon. It's been a fantastic afternoon, albeit a little bit cold, and no doubt going to be a little bit of the same in the morning. I think perhaps this weather might be moving over. We might even have a very lovely day tomorrow. Quarantine male is still sitting down at the base of the tree. He's not showing very much interest in these Nyala. They are moving off. I think he's quite content with his kill. My name is Mark. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for all the questions. Brian and Thumb have been on camera, and I want to thank Tara back in final control, and all of us here at WildEarth. Thank you for joining us. Do join us again tomorrow morning. We'll be out 6:30 Central African time, and until then, love you lots. Goodbye.